Hello and welcome to the RacingBet preview for All-Star Mile Day, Saturday the 13th of March, brought to you by Bet Deluxe, serious betting for serious punters. This week, I'm your host, Tim Geers, joined by Trent Crebbin, who's probably feeling a little bit down in the dumps following the breaking news of Arcadia Queen, obviously suffering from feet issues, one day out ahead of the $5 million race at Moonee Valley. Trent, welcome to the show. Tell us how you're feeling.
Yeah, it's been a bit of a rough day ever since we kind of got the news yesterday. I'm kind of expecting her to be okay this morning. Only got worse this morning. If she does make the race tomorrow morning, the bar plates will be on, which is not what you want to hear. I guess just first and foremost, just hope that the horse is okay, and if she can take her place, that she can get around safely and still perform somewhere near her best.
Yeah, I just tweeted out, I get the point of view that the connections are made of money, and they're not short of a dollar, but it's just such a shame. Like, this horse is one of the best horses in the country, if not the best, over this particular distance. She's had a faultless lead up. They've set her for the race for months now. Everything's gone to plan, and then 2 days out from the race, she springs a plate and ends up pulling up lame. She's very doubtful to take her spot, I would have thought. It's a massive shame just for racing fans, I reckon. Like, what she was able to do in the spring was incredible, and that was with dodgy feet. So unfortunately, just is a continual case of not being able to see this horse at her very best. But one day we will, and I'm sure she's going to blow a field away in a similar field to this, Trent.
Yeah, definitely. It is disappointing for racing fans. She's kind of got starting to build up a lot of a cult following now. I definitely lay claim to being the first, but that's beside the point. So yeah, I'll be on track there, and I was really hoping to see her, and I hope that I still can. But if not, like you said, we'll hopefully see her another day.
Yeah, you've made the move all the way across to Melbourne from Adelaide just to see Arcadia Queen in the flesh. Poor bloke. I'm sure you'll get your wish and see her one day. I think she'll stick around and find another race throughout the autumn, I'm sure. But we'll get to that a little bit more detail later on. We'll get through our best bets for both Rosehill and Moonee Valley before we then take a detailed look at the All-Star Mile. Weather conditions are all the talk this week, Trent, especially over in Sydney. We could be playing on a good 3 or we could be playing on a heavy 10, depending on how much rain falls. Of course, we've got the Group 1 Coolmore Classic headlining the card at Rosehill in Sydney. The Moonee Valley card is obviously headlined by the All-Star Mile. Talk us through the track conditions in Melbourne, and then I'll touch on what we're expecting in Sydney.
Yeah, it's a little bit up in the air in Melbourne as well. There's as much as 20 millimeters predicted at some places. I think the range is about 8 to 15 all on the day. So it'll just depend on how much we get of that. I saw the track manager speak, and apparently he's thinking it'll get no worse than a soft 6 if most of that does hit. But yeah, it'll be a bit of a wait and see.
Yeah, I think it's a day overall where it's almost impossible to bet early. Like, I wouldn't be betting until tomorrow morning at the earliest, especially in Sydney, because as I said, we'd expected all this rain throughout the week. It hasn't arrived necessarily. The track's currently a good 4. Then they were saying there was up to 15 or 45 millimeters of rain predicted today, the day before the race. But as I said, the track's still a good 4. So I think if you are betting at Rosehill especially, and probably goes for Moonee Valley as well, I'd be waiting till tomorrow morning to place your bets. I think just about every race in this meeting is going to be affected by how this track pulls up tomorrow morning. So I'll be waiting. As I said, a lot of things depend on this being either a good 4 or a soft or a heavy track. So we wait in anticipation for the track rating first thing tomorrow morning. We're going to kick off with you over in Melbourne, Trent, at Moonee Valley, and we're going to take the punters through your best bets of the day. We'll then shift over to Sydney and preview my best bets along with the Coolmore Classic. Then we'll come back to you to give us a full rundown on the All-Star Mile. Now, if you want to get Trent's thoughts on every single runner in the All-Star Mile, head to racingbet.com.au. He's got his runner-by-runner preview already online, so make sure you check that one out, as well as his selections and his betting strategy. But Trent, before that, you're going to get us a little bit of money with your best bets, and you're flying at the moment. I think a best bet double on Wednesday at Sandown, followed by another best bet at Pakenham yesterday. We're hoping to make it 3 in a row here. Race 5, number 1, Cherry Tortoni is your best bet at Moonee Valley on Saturday, currently around $1.95 with Bet Deluxe.
Yeah, and I probably won't be alone in making my best bet there. I think he's not exactly too hard to find, but I still think at the price he's good value. So third up here, steps up to the 2,000 meters. It was hard to miss his run last start at Flemington in the Australian Guineas, where he just got so far back. you saw him, he was off the screen at the 300-meter mark. He just kept coming to the line, was beaten a half length or so by Luna Fox. It was a ridiculously huge run. His final 200 meters or so was up there with the best of the day off a good tempo. He's perfectly suited here, stepping up in trip. He's obviously going to be better over further than the mile. So the step up here is ideal. He's 1 from 1 at the track and distance. Any rain around will only help him. He's quite good on soft tracks. And I just think the smaller field here really helps as well. He can, even if he's kind of gets back to last, he's just not going to be that far off them. He's only going to be giving them 6 lengths or so. And he just should be too good here. I don't think they'll be able to match him late.
Well, you'd think if he had won that Guineas, he would be taking Luna Fox's spot in the All-Star Mile. God, his run was big. How painful was that? I think he tipped him on top that day at around $10 or $11, and there was Billy sitting quiet at the 400, about 15 lengths off the leader, and flashing home into second place. It was a torturous result, I'm sure.
Yeah, it was. I did have him on top that day, and I could see that he was coming into it, and then we couldn't see him on the screen. And of all horses, to get knocked off with that bigger run by something that started $300-400 is a little bit sick. But I really think this looks his race. It's an easier race, and the step up in trip's really going to suit.
Okay, so that's race 5, number 1 for Trent's best bet of the day. We'll move on to your best value bet of the day at Moonee Valley on Saturday. Comes up in race number 6, the race immediately after this. So hopefully we've got plenty of money to play with by this stage of the day. You're with horse number 2, Indispensable, for Paul Prushka and D. Oliver. They don't team up often.
Yeah, I haven't run the stats on that, actually. You might have to get that up for the punters and see.
I'll do it in the background. You
do love the trainer jockey combos. So this is, it's the country final here. It's actually the final of the limited whip rules, which is, like it or hate it, this is what it is. So I think a good jockey here is really important, and it gets Ollie on, which his screaming at the horse probably counts for that much of a whip strike anyway. I really liked his run last start off a little bit of a break, stepped up to the 1600 meters for the first time and was caught 3 wide on the speed. Really looked like he'd drop out with 200 meters to go, but really kept kicking and ran second there to a horse he meets here again, Intellective, who probably got a nicer run just behind the speed. Meets him at the same weights here, but he does get a key jockey change with Ollie, as I said, replacing Tatum Bull. The draw is a little bit sticky in barrier 10, but he can go forward. And I think if he can get a little bit of cover, I thought he was going to be really hard to beat. And I thought he was a good value play at around $7.
I can't find any stats here for Damien Oliver and Paul Prushka teaming up, at least not in the last 12 months or so. Is there a bigger jockey change in Australia than Tatum Bull off, Damien Oliver on?
Yeah, it's got to be right up there. And like I said, I think the jockey's going to be really important here. And I think Ollie can really get him over the line.
Okay, so that's race 6, number 2, Indispensable. Currently around $7 with Bet Deluxe. As I said, serious betting for serious punters, and they're the sponsors of this week's show. We'll transfer over to Sydney in Rosehill, and we'll go through my best bets of the day before coming back to you, Trent. But I'm going to call on your thoughts in the Coolmore Classic when we get to that stage, because there's a few Melbourne horses that I need your help kind of lining up here. But we'll kick off with my best bet of the day, and I'm going to try and get the money early here this week. Race 1, I'm going to put not the house on Great House, but I'm going to make him my best bet of the day. Race 1, number 4, Great House. He's currently $2.10. He was my best bet last start. He loomed into the race like the winner and then just kind of stopped at the 200-meter mark. I didn't really know what to make of his run. He obviously drew wide on that occasion. As I said, he came into the race like he was looking as if he was the winner, and then he kind of just peaked on his run late. He was beaten 0.6 lengths back in third, so I'm probably being harsh saying that he just stopped. But there's a few keys here. He was a month between runs on that occasion, so he's going to be fitter for that run, I feel. He drops back from a benchmark 88 to a benchmark 78. He won in this grade 2 starts ago by nearly 3 lengths. He did it very easily, so I think dropping back to this grade is going to suit him much better. Yeah, he goes up a little bit in weight, but I think he's a good enough horse to do so. He gets plenty of gear changes on his head today. The blinkers go on for the first time. The bubble cheeker on the near side goes on for the first time. On the offside goes on for the first time. And the ear muffs pre-race also go on for the first time. Now, the bubble cheeker goes on essentially to stop him hanging in. You would notice in his last start, kind of just in the straight, he had a tendency to hang in. So the bubble cheeker goes on the offside, the inside side of his head, to kind of stop him laying in. So hopefully if that works with the blinkers going on first time, it'll sharpen him up a bit. It'll straighten him up a bit. And I just think he'll be too good for this field. He stays at 2,000 metres. He looks an exciting horse. Barrier 6, he probably doesn't need to get so far back as he was last start. Hopefully he can sit around midfield, or even just, a little bit a touch closer than what he's been settling in his past couple of starts. And I think he'll prove too good here. Currently $2.10 with Bet Deluxe. That's race 1, number 4, and we hopefully will get the day off to a very good start. We'll move on to the Group 1 Coolmore Classic. This is the feature of the day at Rosehill, and I'm going to make my best value bet in this race. Whether I back 1, 2, 3, or even 4 horses in this race is yet to be decided. But here's a few key stats for you, Trent. You alluded to the fact that I'm a stats man, and I like, highlighting patterns in races like this. The last 5 winners of the Coolmore Classic have paid $21, $21, $21, $26, and $15. So this is a race that punters traditionally struggle to find or struggle to have any luck in. We see a horse high up in the betting, which is Forbidden Love, currently around $6. She's a 3-year-old filly, and I've seen a lot of people pushing her case in this race, but the stat that kind of haunts me is the last 3-year-old filly to win this race was Typhoon Tracy back in 2009, and she carried 51 kilos on that occasion, whereas Forbidden Love carries 54 here. So I think it's going to be a big effort if she is to win this. And with that in mind, as well as, the historical factors of the long price winners of this race, I'm going to be steering around Forbidden Love. I completely respect her win last start. She was dominant. But in a race like this, I'm going to be looking for a little bit of value. I think the races to look for coming into this race, the form references are the Guy Walter Stakes and also the Millie Fox Stakes. So they're the 2 races I'm kind of going to zone in on and try and find horses coming out of those 2 races coming into the Coolmore Classic. Before I get into my selections, I want to get your thoughts on a few horses coming up from Melbourne. We've got the likes of Shaylo, who was absolutely backed off the map last start and got the money. First up at Flemington, I think she was, you'll be able to know better than I was, but she was hammered into around $3.80, and I think you had her on top in that race as well. So shows how much cash you've got to move the market like that. We also see the likes of Sovereign Award and Rich Hips. So take us through your thoughts on the Melbourne form, kind of lining up here to Sydney.
Yeah, Shaylo's come back really well. That was a really good win first up at Flemington. Step up and trip will be no problem there. Does get quite a long way back in her races, so she's going to need some luck. But if they're kind of going at a good tempo and she can kind of sit 3 wide with cover, she's a big chance. Rich Hips, I would probably be keen to be against. She at 1,500 meters, probably a strong run, 1,500 meters with the big field. All her form was kind of 1,400, and she got every chance last start. I thought you probably play around her. So though, all of this prep, she put on a bit of a picket fence last prep. All of this prep, she's been not quite there. She's been throwing her head around, racing really keenly, and clearly not fit enough, or not going as well as last prep. But last start, she kind of put it all together, got rated perfectly by D Lane, and was too good for them there. She comes here on the backup, so you'd imagine she'll be rock hard fit for this 4th up. And gate 18 kind of gives her no option but to really just keep going and kind of roll along at a good tempo. So I thought out of all the 3 I'd like to back at the prices, it would be Sovereign Award. Shaylo is probably the hardest to beat out of the 3 though.
Okay, well, my best value bets of the day, there's 3 horses early that I'm looking to back. And again, a lot of this is going to depend on the track conditions for one in particular. But on top, I've got horse number 5, Subpoenaed, currently around $12 with Bet Deluxe. She comes into this second up from a spell. She won the Millie Fox Stakes at Group 2 level first up, and that's obviously one of the races I highlighted as being a good form reference for this race. I think the last 5 winners of the Coolmore Classic have all come out of the Guy Walter Stakes or the Millie Fox Stakes. So they're the races traditionally to look for leading into this. I thought her run first up and her win first up was terrific coming from off the speed. I thought she was very strong to the line over 1,300 metres. She's only going to be better suited up to 1,500 metres, I think. And she just looks to, she's always been a horse that's shown the ability and shown the talent. And this might be the prep that she puts it all together. She's won second up before. She's won in the wet and on good. So the track conditions for her probably aren't such a big issue. She's won twice at the track. She draws barrier 4. Tommy Berry's on board. I think there's plenty to like about her with 56.5 kilos coming out of that form reference. I think she's going to run a really big race here at double figure odds. The other two horses I'm going to be backing are horse number 3, Crone, and horse number 4, Madame Rouge. Now, Madame Rouge, she actually ran second to Subpoenaed first up in the Millie Fox Stakes. And there's every case to be made that she probably should have gone a lot closer. I mean, she was beaten less than a length as it was, but the difference was Subpoenaed had a clear run throughout in the straight. Madame Rouge was held up trying to kind of get inside runs. And then when she eventually got clear, she hit the line really well. So I don't think there's a great deal separating them. James McDonald sticks with Madame Rouge, who lined up in the Canterbury Stakes last weekend, actually, where she was beaten 3 lengths by Savatiano. Of course, that's a very strong form reference as well. Now back to mares grade in Group 2, in a Group 1 mares race, coming from an open Group 1. I think she's going to be very hard to beat. Now, the thing that worries me about her is she's had 5 starts, third up from a spell, and has never run a place. That is kind of a ringing alarm bell to me when I go through the form. Those kind of patterns I don't like. But this is her grand final, I'm sure. Third up, Group 1 mares grade. Chris Waller will have her spot on. She probably doesn't want it too wet. She probably wants the rain to stay away. All her best racing's been done on good ground. But even if it is around a soft 5 or a soft 6, I wouldn't be too worried. And I think at around $18 or $19, she's well over the odds. And Chris Waller always has his horses firing in these Group 1 races. So number 4, Madame Rouge, will certainly be getting some of my money for Chris Waller and James McDonald. The last one was number 3, Crone. She, of course, won the Guy Walter Stakes last start. That was on a soft 6 track, and she really will relish the rain if it comes. I think she's had 21 starts on good ground for 2 wins, but she's had 4 starts on rain-affected ground for 3 wins. So that's not to say she can't go on the good tracks, but I just think any rain that falls is really going to help her chances. Barrier 1, it's a little bit tricky. She came from last in the Guy Walter Stakes, so where she gets through from Barrier 1 is somewhat of a little query. But I thought her win in the Guy Walter was terrific. She won by nearly 2 lengths going away. She went straight past the likes of Tricky Gal, Ice Bath, who she faces again here. And I don't see any reason why they could turn the form around on her. So if she brings that level of performance, again, through a race that's proven, that is a proven form reference for this Coolmore Classic, I think she can give this a good shake again at around $18. So they're the 3 I'll be backing. Crone at $18, Madame Rouge at $18, and Subpoenaed probably my top selection at around $12. And again, a lot is going to depend on the track conditions. So check back first thing in the morning and just see what the track rating is there at Rosehill Gardens. Trent, any other thoughts for you in the Group 1 Coolmore Classic?
Just doing a bit of quick form here. Any chance to All Saints Eve? Was good, kind of brings a different form line behind Think It Over, Cryoderis. Good second up record.
Yep, absolutely. So I think a couple of us had this discussion yesterday, but I think All Saints Eve was in one of my review pieces 2 weeks ago out of her run first up in the Liverpool City Cup behind, as you said, Think It Over and Cryoderis. I thought her run was good. Second up from a spell is when she fires. I think I was on her second up last preparation at Newcastle in the Tibby Stakes. My query is whether that race is the best form reference for this race. The Group 3 Liverpool City Cup behind the likes of Think It Over. I just wonder if that's as good as the form behind the likes of Subpoenaed and Crone in the Millie Fox and the Guy Walter. I expected to run really well. She had a good barrier draw on barrier 7 to run well. And as you alluded to, that second up record definitely is a positive. She won't matter if the rain comes. She won't mind at all. She's good on good ground or soft ground, so I wouldn't be too worried there. But yeah, my main concern is just the strength of that form in that race, the one she comes out of first up, but certainly not hopeless All Saints Eve. Okay, that'll do us for the Group 1 Coolmore Classic over here in Sydney at Rosehill. We'll shift back over to Melbourne to talk about the day's feature, of course, the All-Star Mile at Moonee Valley. We've got a field of 15. We've alluded to the concerns over Arcadia Queen, and due to that concern with her feet, I think the announcement came through just before we started recording that if she does race, the bar plates will be going on. She was 1 out of 5 lame yesterday, 2 out of 5 lame today. I see it hard to see her lining up in this race, which will mean 50 stars will come in to take her spot if she is scratched. And we've seen a big shift in the market, Trent, probably in the last 24 hours or so. And the money has come for Russian Camelot, first up from a spell over the mile. Can he win?
Definitely. Yeah, he can absolutely win. Especially if the rain comes. He's a really good wet tracker. First up at the 1600 meters is ideal for him. And I thought he was a big chance.
Okay, yeah. Well, it was funny because yesterday I was looking through the markets and thinking ahead to recording this show, and I was thinking, well, to me, I was only keen on backing two, and that was Arcadia Queen and Russian Camelot at around, I think Arcadia Queen was around $4 and Russian Camelot was $8, but gone is the $8. He's now into around $4.80 or $5 with Bet Deluxe. So plenty of punters have obviously seen that concern with Arcadia Queen and have snapped up the early odds for Russian Camelot. And he's going to, if it keeps trending this way, could push close to being favoritism. Does it worry you first up 1600 without any first up run coming into this, or do you think they've just kind of kept him on the sharp side?
No, I don't think it really matters for a horse like this. We kind of saw what he did as a 3-year-old, where he went from 1600 meters to 2500 meters in a derby. He's had plenty of jump outs and trials. He's looked really good in all of them. And I think with Danny O'Brien, and especially with this horse, I don't think it's an issue. So the first up was always the plan to come to this race first up at the mile. So I think it's a really good option for him. Okay,
so take us through how you're going to play the race. Obviously, it's probably changed a bit from when you sent out your runner-by-runner preview, this news about Arcadia Queen, but talk us through now how you're assessing the race, what you're taking into consideration, and how you're going to bet.
Yeah, look, it is very tough. Arcadia Queen was definitely going to be on top for me. I loved her running the Futurity. The jump out since was amazing. I think all things being equal, she'd definitely be the horse to beat, but all things are not equal at the moment. So look, probably was the horse to beat. There wasn't much between them anyway, as we saw in the Futurity, where probably beat Arcadia Queen. I'm still just I've never really been a huge fan of Probabeel. Like, I know she's obviously a Group 1 horse, but I thought she kind of had the fitness advantage and the head start on Arcadia Queen last start. She draws wide here. If it rains a little bit, I don't think it'll mind. Her record on soft tracks is still quite good, even though they're adamant that she doesn't handle it. She's like 9 from 11 top 2 finishes on soft tracks, but the cam's adamant that she hates wet ground. So don't know what to read of that. But barrier 10 is a little bit tricky. If she can slot in midfield and get off the fence, she'll be very hard to beat. But I think Russian Camelot was the one I highlighted as the main danger, or the one of odds that I wanted to play in the race outside of Arcadia Queen. You look back through his runs last prep, and he started pretty much in favourite in all of those races against Arcadia Queen in the Underwood, Caulfield Stakes, and then he started favourite in the Cox Plate as well. So I think the $8 or so was probably overs. He's probably into a kind of more reasonable price, or maybe just a little bit short now. But I think I probably will have something on him, especially if the rain does come, and probably just stay out of Probabeel and just hope that Arcadia Queen gets a run and see what to do with her on the day. If she did run and got out to a stupid price, like everyone took her on and she got out to $8 or something, or maybe you have a little something on just in case she does show up. But yeah, like I said, this situation's made it really tricky to confidently put you into anything at this stage.
I guess the question is, and this is just me asking you, do you, as a punter who is obviously very keen on Arcadia Queen, do you want her to run knowing that she's had those feed issues, or would you rather just her be scratched?
As someone who's invested in futures, I want her to run provided that she's okay. Obviously, I don't want her running if it's going to cause her any more injury. But yeah, from that point of view, I definitely want her to run. If I'd backed her since Final Field's gone up and you saw that, then maybe you'd say, oh, you'd rather her just be scratched. It's like a horse playing up as favourite behind the gates, and you'd rather just them be scratched and get your money back rather than run last. So I think from that point of view, I could understand why people would just prefer her to be scratched. But I think as any kind of general racing fan, you want her to be there.
Yeah, and I like the transparency. You obviously heavily invested pre-post in all-in betting. No doubt that you'd want her to line up at least if she was okay. I want to ask you about Sir Dragonet. Obviously, at the very top of the field, he was heavily backed first up in the Orr Stakes. I think he would have started favourite on that occasion, and he was absolutely awful. How do you see him second up at 1600 metres, especially if the rain arrives? And I want you to try and compare him to Russian Camelot, who we also see first up over 1600 metres coming out of races like Melbourne Cup. Yeah, so they both ran in the Melbourne Cup, actually, and both were both good runs there. Sergei Dragonet, like you said, was awful first up on the good track. The 1600 metres is definitely going to suit, but he's never actually
before he came to Australia, he'd always raced at 2,000 meters or potentially even 2,400 as well. So I think even the 1,600 might be too short for him here as well. I think if we got a lot of rain and it was really into the heavy track kind of range, he'd kind of come into calculations. But I just think at 1,600 meters, it's still going to be too short for him. So I was kind of just happy to play around him a little bit, just going off how poorly he went first up, even though there were excuses.
And so do you share the same concerns with Russian Camelot? Like, because to me, I'm thinking they both come out of the Melbourne Cup. So Dragonet, we saw over 1,400 metres fresh, failed badly. Now we see Russian Camelot first up over 1,600 metres coming out of the Melbourne Cup. Will he do the same thing? Or do you think they're kind of different horses and then Russian Camelot's a bit more versatile and a bit more adaptable to be sharp enough over the mile?
No, yeah, I think Russian Camelot's a bit more versatile because he came out of the SA Derby and ran first up in the Maccabi Diva and was a huge run there when Wide and Fierce Impact just got the better of him. So I think he's definitely a more adaptable horse under the O'Brien camp. And yeah, you know, his record at 1,600 meters, albeit, you know, one of them was at Pakenham and the other one is in a Group 1. You know, he is quite adaptable, and I think it's a good kickoff point for him as opposed to Sir Dragonet, which I think might just be a pure 2,000 to 2,400 meter wet tracker. A very good one though when he gets it.
Yep, agree. Talk us through the chances of Mugger 2. We obviously saw him finish off well behind Colette first up in Sydney. Colette then came out and ran really well behind the likes of Very Elegant Group 1 level. Second up, do you see him playing a part here?
Yeah, he's another one I kind of just found a little bit hard to assess as well. He's got a good second up record, 3 wins from 4 starts. Any kind of track conditions that we find for him. The mile was probably just a bit short for him as well. Perhaps he's not quite as sharp at the distance as say a Probabeel or potentially Arcadia Queen as well, where they're, especially Probabeel is probably her best distance at 1,600. His run in the Cox Plate was enormous when he was wide and kind of kept coming to the line there. I'm just thought, you know, he's probably going to get a fair way back here and just potentially finds a couple of them or one of them too sharp and he just hits the line really strongly. So I was kind of just taking him on, but wouldn't shock.
Okay. Any other horses worth mentioning before we sign off?
That's really covered most of the main chances. You know, as it always is with this race, there's a lot of kind of the fan votes and the good story horses, which are, you know, not really a chance of winning. So there are a few main chances. Hopefully we see Arcadia Queen in the race and hopefully, you know, fingers crossed and she can show up, but otherwise Russian Camelot's probably the one for me.
Okay, plenty to keep track of and plenty still to play out the next 24 hours or so, both in Melbourne and Sydney. It's going to be a fascinating day's racing. We've got it all covered on racingbet.com.au. Josh Reid will have the Gold Coast dual meeting. That's the feature meeting in Queensland on Saturday. He'll have that covered on RacingBet. I'll have the Ascot meeting as well as Rosehill covered, and Trent, of course, will have you covered for every race at Moonee Valley on All-Star Mile Day. Thanks to betdeluxe.com.au for sponsoring this week's show. Serious betting for serious punters. Jump online and check out their odds ahead of this weekend's racing. And Trent, wish you all the best on the weekend. We'll be back to do it all again next week.